and the response from that, it's given me some things to talk about. First thing today, I just brought this, you know, to me going to a club meeting is about learning something. And the introduction and the use of different tools and accessories, I think, is helpful. Today I'm going to use a chuck that's made by Easy Tools, I think it's Easy Wood Tools, yeah. And this is what they call their Easy Chuck. I like it a lot. It's a very expensive chuck. It's a $400 chuck. And the jaw sets, I think the cheap ones are around $60 and they go on up from there. The reason I like it, there's a couple things. The key is easy to use. It's a 5/16 Allen, so you're not dealing with trying to get into the gears and all that kind of thing. The chuck itself actually has a scroll ring on it, which I do use a lot. This lathe, the spindle stop won't stay locked, where on mine it will. So I do use that, but one of the reasons that I brought it in and why I use it a lot is it's easy to change the jaws. Both, they snap in, they snap out. And to just make an example of that, you know, if I want to put my cold jaws on. Yes, sir?
Do they have numbers on them? In other words, if those things were
No.
turned in a sequence, they're all connected?
No. It's all that is in the scroll. Can you see? Well, no, you can see a lot better than I thought. Everything's kind of dark green, but. So, and then, so you're not fishing little screws out of the chips under the lathe when you use this. If they're deep enough, it's actually possible to lose these in the chips. But so that, I wanted to bring that in to just introduce you. Today what I'm gonna make, this is not a finished one because I still have the dovetail on it. Where are we?
Over here on my screen.
I like it. We don't have that in our club yet. And what I do is the dovetail, I grab it here in the chuck. And as you see, I've got a lot of extra wood. And this is, I was introduced to this by David Ellsworth. He likes to turn the tenon off or have the tenon become part of the bowl instead of, as he puts it, sometimes people just, that's the bottom of the bowl. So what I've done is I've left wood here, and when I do finally finish this, I will take and change the shape where there's no finish on this bowl and actually end up with the bottom being down in this area. And this bowl I've actually hollowed down to the point where I'm ending right about at this point. So I brought this, one of the things I want to do while we're doing the demo is I want to pass this around because I want you to pay attention to how the grain relates to the physics of, or the shape of the bowl, the piece. It's a little bit of a challenging job to turn one of these because all your grain is on a bias. It's not cross, it's not spindle, it's on a bias. And two things is you'll have at least one point out here that's kind of weak. And you have to be a little bit easy on it as you're turning it. And the other thing is, I've learned from experience that the tenon needs to be fairly large because of the bias grain. It's easy to pop this thing out of the chuck when you're turning it. And they fly pretty good. So I got started turning these bowls because I found a guy on YouTube that was showing it, you know, and got hooked on the idea. And his concept, and there's at least 2 or 3 more people that have done YouTube on turning these 3-pointed bowls. And their concept is that you're going to turn this bowl between 2 points, like this. And what they were doing is doing a compound miter to clip off a corner so you can put your drive center up against it. It's touchy to get it right. You know, these, the settings that one of them gave was you're doing a compound, so your blade's set at 37.5 degrees at a miter of 45. And what I found was that wasn't right.
Don't worry about getting close.
Plus, the other challenge is taking the point of your drive and getting it perfectly centered on the flat that you've created. So, in fooling around with it, I decided, well, I want to try something a little different. Something that's going to be easier, because I'm into easy. And so what I did is I just took and jammed this thing into the spindle, took the point out of my tail, and I'm actually going to put it off a little bit for right this second, because there is something I want to show here. And I got to figure out how to get, I got a long rest here that's not helping me. So, can we see this point right here where my finger is? No.
Is it the back point? Hang on, I can turn it.
Turn the light over to it. There you go. There you go.
Can you see that there now?
Hang on, let me.
Yep, okay. So, what you want to do when you set this up is you want to have this block. You're going to use 3 points. Those are going to become the points of the bowl. And you want to check how well they're coming around and lining up. So what I'm doing right here, I'm going to put my finger here to help highlight it, is I'm just looking at this cube and where those points are referencing to the end of the tool rest. I mean, you can use whatever you want to. And there's 2 things I'm looking at is, are the points lining up to the same spot every time it comes around, every point comes around, and also whether they're in center of the lathe in terms of depth. So I could be lining up, but I could be away from the tool rest or closer to it. And so right now I'm just kind of jiggling it around to get my center point. And really what I'm doing is I'm just getting the point of that cube into the spindle and the tail piece on center. And I should be pretty close right there. Yep. So those are all coming around within a 1/16 of an inch of the same spot.
Because you're only looking at 3 of them, because 3 of them you don't look at.
And leave,
Right?
just stay right where you are for a second, Doug.
Okay, yep, I got it.
So I got it tight enough now that we can turn the lathe on. That doesn't show it too well. Probably you can see it better just from, actually you can see these are the points out here that we're going to save, and these are the ones we're going to take off.
Hang on, here comes around. No, I'll show that again.
There you go.
There you go, you got a shadow up there. And if you've done any off-center turning, you're used to seeing shadow wood or ghost image. You know, there's a lot of different names for it. So the other thing I want to talk about right now is when you're turning a piece where you're getting an interrupted cut, and this time a definition of interrupted cut is The tool is cutting wood, and then if there's no wood as the piece turns, and then it's in the wood again, and it's not in. You know, some people call it air cutting, some people call it interrupted, some people call it ghost cutting. I mean, you name it, there's 1,000 names for it. But the trick is taking light cuts, and you turn the piece as fast as you can turn it. So if you got a balanced piece, you know, that means you can be up in the 2000s. If it's out of balance, then it's whatever the piece, whatever the lathe can stand without walking away from you. I've got a twist piece that I turned for an art show. I'll bring it in as a show and tell sometime. But the piece is almost 4 feet long, and it's probably 6 inches in diameter. The actual twist on it's about like that. And I was turning, I mean, literally I had it on this, turning this way, and my top speed was about 200 RPM. So it makes it really hard to get a nice smooth cut. So we're lined up. I'm just gonna put some pressure on it, hopefully.
How dry is that wood?
This wood is wet. It's about 25% moisture. And the reason I'm doing that is at my home club, we're actually in the base at the community room in a church, and we're trying not to make too much dust. And so I turned it on wet wood. Normally when I turn these, I'm turning them on dry wood, and it creates a lot of dust. And again, you pretty much have a fan turning in front of you, and it stirs the air a lot. So it spreads the dust pretty good. So the first thing is to just get it turned to get a tension on it. The tool rest is bottomed out, and it's just about the right spot. George was instructing me how to change the tool rest to this way to get more movement.
He had a better way, didn't he?
Yeah, he does. This is a Ellsworth gouge. I'm using the actual Ellsworth brains on it. And one of the things that's really nice about it is to do a drag setup. Has some nice control. I'm not selling all this garbage or anything, but I found it to be about the most useful grinding. Now, one of the things, I don't know how well it's showing up there, probably not well enough on the screen, but if you keep your eye on the profile of what I'm turning, that's what I'm looking at. Because if I'm trying to actually see where it is. See how the dust is swirling around there? You normally expect that if you're doing bowl, it would just eject. What I've done is I've set these dividers to the ideal jaw setting. I'm going to need a little bit more flatness. turning and spindle like that, it's an automatic safety drive. If you get it tested, it's fly. Should have no flat now. All I'm doing is try to mark so that I know where to cut to create some tendons. This is the worst part of using a big jaw set because you lose more wood. But it also helps me feel pretty sure I'm not going to send it out into the audience. Okay, we got most of the back points off. Take the rest of them off now. When you start to approach the points that you want to save, what I found for me is I don't go all the way to that point. So if you're looking at the profile, you want to leave just a little bit of wood there. This is just a scraper that I ground to make it easy to cut my dovetail. Probably most of you have done something like that. So I've got this cut, so it's a scraper, and I can just go in and make sure I've got a flat that the jaws are going to come up against, and then I just drag that in. I've got my automatic cut there. Also turn the manner up to where you'll find that it's good to stop a lot and take a look at what you've got. Now I'm not quite rounded here, so I want to bring that around before I start thinking about putting it in the chuck. Again, I want to not cut my points off. If you do, it means that you've got a smaller hole. It's just the maximum of the wood that you're working with. You want to leave them intact. Still got a little bit flat. Is that showing?
Yep.
Yeah.
How big was that blank? 4x4 when you started?
Yeah, it was just a little under. I was using some trims off of a blank. When I turned molds, I put them on my bandsaw, so I circle cut on my bandsaw. And I turn a circle, and so you have the corners of the blank that I kept trying to find a use for, and this is one of them. For some of these, they're pretty small. This Ellsworth grind is really quite nice for the drag cut. clean. Just a little bit more.
Does it matter which way you're going there? Which way is the grain there? Is that uphill or downhill? It doesn't
Which way
matter.
is the grain going?
Whichever way you want to make it work, huh?
That's the question with that one. All right, so now I got this little knot here that's my original points. So now I want to refine that. And part of why I left them on is because it gives you more wood to leave on while you're turning, the more options you got. So we're truly in the cut here, and what I'm doing is I'm approaching the piece with the cutting up so that it kind of can double. And then just like you do with the cut, you raise the handle and take it to the starts to cut. And take a light cut. Come back one more time, again, find it over the double. And in this process, because the grain's running on the bottom, you want to think in terms of using a push cut, because you get a cleaner, less effort cut on the piece than you do with drag. What I found is if I'm doing drag cuts out on the points, at least on the inside, it's really easy to rip off more wood than you really want to put out. If you got questions while I'm doing this, holler them out, don't wait till the end. So I think we're about ready. You can see right there where that started to tear out, and that's because of grain direction. Wood's a little bit punky, so it doesn't want to turn real smooth. So now I'm going to take off, just get ready to put it on the cut. So I'm going to stop there and use salt, take the rest of it out. And then I'm going to finish this piece. I'm going to turn off the end of the lathe. One of the reasons that I like to do that, so I'll fuse where there it is. One of the reasons I like to do that is there's a huge amount of comfort.
Are you done with the other stuff?
Yep. Oh, I didn't know if you could put the cameras in there.
Tell them to redo that one.
There's a huge amount of comfort in howling the bowl, but also once I get it set up, I'll show you the difference in the handle and gouge. That I know when I started turning, I was turning out over the waves, and It could, you know, maybe for your design, but if you remember looking at that one I passed around, you can't find any kind of relationship that seems to work with the edges. And so I just got to the point I really didn't care, I just stuck it on there. So, one of the reasons that I like, I don't know how many of them turn off the end of the lathe. I'm kind of, you know, last year I've been doing it this way. But when you're turning and reaching over the ways, you know, you're using your gouge like this. So you got to way out here. Your control gets pretty minimal, especially if your cut starts to overwhelm you a little bit. Whereas when you get and turn off at the end of the lathe, you actually kind of form a triangle out of your body with the gouge, and I literally hold the gouge right up against my body, and all my movement becomes my body movement. So the only thing that this hand is doing is directing where I actually want the tip of the gouge to be. And I found I had a lot more control that way. In turning these pieces, I didn't break the points off as often because, you know, when you're out here this way and you just don't have that control, and all it takes is a little tiny bit of movement when you're out here trying to thin these points out to dive into them. So that's why, and you know, kind of one of the funny, tricky things about that is when you think about it, you've got a big nipple right here. So you're starting out trying to take the nipple off. So I'm up around 1800 RPM. And all I want to do is just start flattening that thing out a little bit so I can get him on. This is the mundane part of doing a bowl. Roughing the wood out. With a small tendon on, it's easy to get a little over anxious, take too big a cut, and that's when you pop it right out of the chuck. Which is why we're using a bigger chuck right now.
Why don't you just part off that top third instead of turning it?
Was that George that said that?
Yep. I didn't tell you, I asked you.
Oh. That was a question.
That's right.
You could, one of the things you could do, I have not done it, I've seen some that were done. They actually took a parting tool and cut that piece out and turned it into a lid that actually sat down into the bowl. Today we just don't have enough time to do all that, so I figured this is as good as, and less risky than using a tool to part that off.
Well, you said we could ask you questions.
Yeah, well, you did good.
No, I didn't.
And here's the difference when I'm out in the interrupted versus it'll want to grab more, so you want to be ready for that. Part of the reason that it wants to grab more out there is you're reacting to the interruption itself and you don't even realize it. But the tool's bouncing away from the wood back at you, and so you kind of try to overpower that. And so you're cutting here. That's actually a pretty good image, Doug.
Thank you.
You're cutting here and then you're coming off the wood. And so your tool wants to do this type of movement on you. And the problem is, and when I said it'll grab on you, or can grab on you, is because you're taking a heavy cut, you're putting pressure on it, and now you're in wood. And so you're counteracting that the wood's pushing you back. And as soon as you come off the wood, you advance. You don't even realize it. So the next piece of wood comes around and you're out too far. You're taking a big bite. So as we start to get into a further out interruption, I got to take smaller cuts and I have to be more careful about it. Right now I'm just trying to get wood out of here so that we aren't here too long. Taking too big a cut. The other thing about doing interrupted cuts, you should feel very comfortable doing a lot of stopping and looking, because you really can't see what you're producing. You can see the ghost of it, but you can't see it. And I took a workshop from Barbara Dill a year ago to learn multi-axis turning, her style. And I thought it was kind of funny when I first got there, but she actually has extra stop buttons for her lathes because she wears them out, turning them on and off. I'm ready to start refining the points, and you can see how this is expanded here versus here. So I've got to start thinking about matching my arc from the outside and maintaining the same shape. It's hard to see that right there. Sorry. There it is right there. So you end up starting to take some isolated cuts. So for example, if I was trying to thin this up right in here, which I will, I'll actually pick my spot where I want to start my cut and just hold the gouge there, start to lathe up, and that's where I approach it. Because otherwise you'll end up with an irregular thin shape. I'm going to do this point a little more. Just because because I know you guys are so experienced, I'll thin it down some. I don't want you to play my luck too heavy. What you're doing is I'm routing the bevel. I'm using that bevel to tell me where I am on the interruption, and also to keep me from driving the cutting edge into the work. Now I'm in the solid wood. I'm just going to take this valve. I'm not worried about the bottom. I'm not going to finish this piece. So I'm back here. We're going to work on getting that down. Right there. See all that stuff flies around? So okay. These are just really refining cuts, but this is the, this is the stuff you want to learn about doing interrupted cuts. I got a point, it's fat right in here. I'm going to come back in a bit and work on that, but right now I want to finish sizing this, and I need to be right about there. I'm on the double. Raise the handle a little bit, so it starts to cut. Okay. A little bit more. Not too bad. I want to get rid of this fat that's right in here. Yeah, we're about there. I'm a little bit off on that corner. Alright, so I'm using the bevel, finding it. And you can see it whirring in front of you about exactly where I put down to that bevel box to me. Oh, I'm in a mess. Okay, I'm going to my friendly big round scraper to just smooth out some tool marks. It's really easy to knock those points off right now.
Would you normally stop about here and let the piece dry and then finish it?
That one that we passed around, That was about 25% moisture. It's a piece of ash. And what I did with it is I sanded it and I put some brush-on lacquer on it. But you see I left the bottom open for two reasons. One, I was going to finish it. I need to finish it yet. But I also wanted to slow down the drying on the points. So all that moisture's got to go out through the base of it now. And I'll leave that for probably another month before I'll actually finish it up. I've never left them raw and wet. So I don't know what they do. I don't know if they work much or not. Like I say, most of the time when I'm turning them, I'm using fairly dry wood. I've got a huge collection of all the corners off my bowl blinds that I trimmed up when I went on the lathe. Some folks like to get that scraper a little bit on more of an angle. I've got mine ground to 80 degrees, so it's a 20-degree bevel on it. And it works quite well, almost horizontally. I think it's like most other grinds, it's what works for me. I'm just using it to smooth up the bottom a little bit. And for today's purposes, that's where we're going to stop.
Bruce,
Yes, sir.
if you take your bolt gouge and set it on your tool rest there and put it right into the center, or approximately the center of your bowl. Okay, now what you want to look at now is not the point of it, but where the handle is, out there by his arm.
See, I'm on the bevel right there.
Right. And how little you can tip that down with that tool rest the way it is.
Right. This. And this is bottomed here.
Right, and that's giving you some trouble. By not being able to get a little different angle on your.
Right.
We're gonna look at some of that next week, or next month.
So that's it. I'll pass this around. I don't know if, I think George was gonna set something up and show it. How his Halloween tool.
You talked a little bit about sanding that.
I don't know. Say it again.
I think you talked a little bit about sanding that and finishing that.
Sure. Let me use this dry one. The way I normally finish these, you know, this is pretty much like a bowl. Maybe. I didn't think I was till I got that question, Doug.
Okay.
But I'll sand, if you power sand, you have a tendency to round over the edge of the rim. And what I like to do is not have a round rim. Some people like them and that's fine. But what I found is I want that edge to be flat. So what I do is I'll power sand until I get out to this point. And then I come in with some handwork and just work it. So if you, a lot of times, especially on dry wood, you may get some splintering along here because on this piece right now, the grain is literally running in the direction of my finger. So it's really easy for you to split out little pieces. And what I'll do is I'll take a piece of 1x material with some sandpaper wrapped around it, and it'll lay on there. I don't know if we've got, it'll actually lay across here, well supported. So then I'll lock the spindle on the lathe, and I'll just take that sandpaper and work that edge. And you'll feel it when you put the wood on there. It's just like taking a skew and finding the bevel on your sharpening stone. You'll find that spot, and then I just work that a little bit and smooth those up. Because, like I said, in dry wood, there's a tendency to want to splinter when the grain is running in that direction. So you'll always have one edge that wants to splinter out a little bit. But then I'll sand that, and then when I turn it around and put it on a vacuum chuck, which is my preference because then I can finish the bottom completely. I don't have that tailstock in there holding pressure if you're using a pressure chuck, a bull nose with some rubber on it or that type of thing. But once I get it around here while it's still on the vacuum chuck, then I'll sand it. And it's the same thing. I'll sand from about this point on down, power sand it, and then work the fin by hand. Because it's just so easy to over sand it. And part of it is the interruption does the same thing to the sander as it does to your gouge. Your sander wants to bounce in there, and you end up taking off the lead edge and digging into the lead edge a lot. So I should have brought one with me today that I was trying to power sand out here, and I ended up with this so thin that it was like paper. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Excuse me. When you're making your cube to begin with, what, if you got a round chunk of log, you're cutting it.
Yeah.
What's your grain orientation?
Doesn't matter.
When you're cutting your log down to make a cube?
Yeah, all right.
Like a bowl?
I start out squaring the piece up with the grain running along the rip guide. I use my bandsaw,
Okay.
and I have my rip guide, and I'll start squaring the piece up that way. So once I get one cut, then I'll turn it. So now I've got a nice solid flat, and I'll run that against my rip guide, and I just keep turning it till I'm square enough that I can actually get 45-degree corners. And then I'll set the bandsaw in just a little bit, and I'll do a cleanup cut on two edges. And then at the same time, I'll take that length and turn it up against the rip guide again and cut the cube off. So that way,
So it's almost like you have a plank or a regular board, it's thick, you just cut off.
Yep, once I get that length squared up, then I'll just take it, turn it, and slice them off. And that, you know, on a bandsaw, that'll get you 32 of an inch, which is plenty close enough to do these. Anything else? Peace, bro.